You say you want to get better, but what if the truth is you don't? What if, deep down, you're holding on to the pain because it's the only thing that still holds you together? Nietzsche saw something most people miss. Emotional pain can become a safe place, a prison with invisible bars. Maybe what scares you most isn't the suffering, but what's left of you when the suffering is gone. What if it's the pain that's been keeping you from truly living, and you haven't even noticed? Today, you'll understand why most people resist healing. We're diving deep into the psychology of pain, into nihilism, and into what Nietzsche called the will to power. If you've ever felt trapped in a pain that just won't go away, this video might finally give that feeling a name. But don't click away. The answer you're looking for only shows up when you face what you've been running from. Like, subscribe, and comment right now. What's been holding you back on the inside? Have you ever felt like you're walking in circles inside your own pain? Like every step you take just leads you deeper into a prison no one else can see? That prison is made of memories, broken expectations, and all the silences you swallowed alone. Nietzsche would say, there's nothing more dangerous than pain that starts to feel like home. Because when that happens, you're no longer living. You're surviving inside your own emotional captivity. Most people don't even realize when they've fallen in love with their suffering. It happens quietly, when pain starts justifying everything. Your failures, your fears, your paralysis. It's easier to say, I'm hurt, than to admit, I'm afraid to try again. So pain becomes a shield against the world, and at the same time, a locked cell from the inside. Nietzsche saw the trap. Pain can give your life meaning, but it can also take your freedom away. And the trap is subtle, because it wears the mask of truth. You start to believe you'll never get better, that this is just who I am, that the emptiness inside you is permanent. But that's just pain, narrating your life. Emotional pain speaks its own language, and the more you listen, the more it shapes who you think you are. Who I am becomes what broke me. Nietzsche believed we cling to pain because it proves we're still alive. In a world drowning in nihilism, where everything feels meaningless, pain becomes a signal you're still here. And when you've lost everything, even pain can feel like a loyal companion. But that attachment, however human, is the very thing that keeps real healing out of reach. Here's the mistake most people make. They think they have to kill the pain to be free, when in truth, they need to understand why the pain is there in the first place. Pain isn't the enemy. It's a message. But when you ignore that message, it repeats itself in cycles. Emotional chronic pain is born from constant escape, avoiding hard conversations, avoiding change, avoiding yourself. And so the cage builds more bars. You might have been trapped in your pain for years, not realizing the keys were in your hands all along. But freedom means facing the fear of becoming someone new, someone who is no longer just the one who suffers. That's the real challenge. Letting go of the identity built around your wounds. Nietzsche wouldn't tell you to run from the pain. He'd tell you to turn that cage into fire, and from that fire, rebuild yourself. Nietzsche was never afraid of pain. In fact, he stared it straight in the eyes. He suffered physically and emotionally for most of his life. Chronic illness, existential despair, social isolation. But his mind turned all of it into thought. For him, suffering was a kind of laboratory, where the essence of existence was distilled drop by drop. He saw pain as a trial by fire for the soul. He once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." And that line isn't just inspiring, it's brutal. It tells us that pain only destroys when we lack a reason to endure it. And that's where most people fall. They feel everything, but they don't know why. Nietzsche believed pain reveals who we are once all the masks fall away. Suffering strips us of comfort, pride, illusion, and in the middle of that emptiness, you find what he called the will to power, the raw, burning force of life that wants to go on, even when torn apart. But not everyone finds that fire. Some people get lost on the way. To Nietzsche, pain was also a test of greatness. He didn't believe in growth without suffering, but he warned the danger isn't the pain itself, it's clinging to it. Because it's easy to slip into the victim role. Pain that was supposed to be a bridge becomes a crutch, and instead of crossing the abyss, you pitch a tent and call it home. There's a lesser-known quote of Nietzsche's that says, "Do not seek to avoid suffering, seek to give it meaning." That's the key most people miss. We run from pain so fast, we forget to ask what it's trying to teach us. And when we don't listen, it screams, it repeats, it breaks us, again and again, until we learn to face it without fear. Nietzsche didn't romanticize pain, but he didn't reject it either. He understood that pain is the soil where the deepest thoughts grow, where the most powerful art is born, where real transformation begins. But only if you walk through it, not build a home inside it. That difference changes everything. And now comes the question we have to ask. Why do some people choose to live inside their pain? That's what we'll explore in the next chapter. There comes a moment when pain stops being something you go through and starts becoming something you are. You no longer say, "I'm suffering." You say, "This is just who I am." It's a subtle shift, but a destructive one, because now it's not the pain that lives in you. You live inside it. Nietzsche warned, be careful what defines you. You might become your own enemy. Many people hold on to their pain because, in a strange way, it gives them value. People speak softer, approach with empathy. They see you more carefully, and that feeds something deep, the need to be seen. Pain becomes a shortcut to connection, but it's a shortcut with a cost. You stop being seen for who you are and start being known as the one who's always broken. Nietzsche once wrote, "Man is something that must be overcome, and maybe that overcoming begins with letting go of the idea that pain is all we are." It's harsh, but it's real. Many people don't know who they'd be without their pain. They hide behind it because if it were to disappear, what would be left? A terrifying emptiness, but also a freeing one. This pain as identity shows up in the way we speak. I am anxious. I am depressed. I am traumatized. These labels matter, yes. But when they become who you are, instead of what you've lived through, you stop looking for the way out. You settle without realizing it. Because to change would mean burying that version of yourself, and that can feel like a kind of death. Nietzsche knew this feeling. In private letters, he admitted that pain often felt like the only thing tying him to the world. But he refused to only be that. He transformed his suffering into philosophy, into art, into something that stretched beyond his sick body and tired soul. It didn't erase his pain, but it made it bigger than him, universal. So now ask yourself, who would you be if your pain disappeared tomorrow? It's a strange question, but it might be the most important one you'll ever answer, because if you don't know, you may have become your wound. And no one can heal what refuses to let go of the pain. In the next chapter, we'll dive into why even those who want to heal sometimes resist it with everything they have. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try, you never really get better? Why the relapses always seem to come just when things were finally looking up? Maybe it's not a lack of strength. Maybe it's fear of change. Nietzsche once said, "Healing hurts. It takes strength to let go of who you became in order to survive." And that's the secret. Sometimes what's holding you back from healing is what you'd have to leave behind. Getting better means confronting the emptiness that pain used to fill. Imagine someone who's lived for years inside sadness, built their identity around it. Suddenly, they start to feel better. But then what? The unknown, the silence, the responsibility of living without excuses. That's terrifying, and that's why so many people stay emotionally unwell, because pain, as cruel as it is, feels familiar. This resistance is almost invisible. You sign up for the course, start therapy, meditate, but something inside keeps sabotaging it. You forget, cancel, get distracted. It's not laziness, it's unconscious self-protection. Your mind learned to treat pain as the safest place to be. Nietzsche called habit the greatest tyrant, and when pain becomes a habit, it becomes a routine, a home, an identity. Most people make this mistake. They think they want to heal, but really they just want the pain to stop. And there's a brutal difference. True healing means facing yourself, admitting that parts of you must die for other parts to be born. It's a grief, a surrender, a new beginning, and that's often scarier than staying stuck. Nietzsche believed real transformation requires symbolic death. He wrote, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." In other words, you have to walk through the discomfort of change. Those who resist healing are often resisting the pain that healing demands, because getting better also hurts, but that pain frees you. It doesn't trap you. So now ask yourself, are you truly trying to heal or just looking for temporary relief? In the next chapter, we'll dive into an even deeper philosophical paradox, the fear of what comes after the pain, the existential void that nihilism reveals when the suffering finally fades. What if the pain goes away and you feel nothing? Most people believe that healing will automatically bring peace, clarity, meaning. But sometimes what follows isn't peace, it's silence, a strange emptiness, a feeling of not knowing who you are anymore or why you're even here. Nietzsche called this nihilism, the collapse of meaning when everything that once held you together, including your suffering, disappears. As painful as it is, suffering gives you structure. It gives you a narrative, a role, a fight to wake up to, and when it's gone, all that's left is stillness. And in that stillness, the scariest question appears: now what? Nietzsche said that modern man killed God, and with that, lost the deeper framework that once gave suffering meaning. Now without pain and without belief, we're left with the abyss. And that abyss is exactly what many people face after overcoming depression, trauma, a crisis. There's no more chaos, but also no clear direction. And here's the harsh truth: the pain was filling the space where meaning was supposed to live. Without it, life feels too light, too empty. And that weight of lightness, that unbearable softness, is hard to carry. But Nietzsche didn't see this void as the end. He saw it as the beginning, ground zero, the place where something new can emerge. What he called the Übermensch, the overman, a human who creates their own meaning in a world where nothing is handed down as absolute. But to reach that, you have to walk through the void, and most people don't. They turn back into pain. Because pain, unlike emptiness, at least feels like something. The majority of people make this mistake. They think the end of pain is the end of the journey. But it's not. It's the start of the second desert, the existential one. Nietzsche once said, "Everything deep loves a mask," and maybe this void is just another mask, waiting for you to craft a new meaning from it. Not one that's imposed on you, but one that's born from you. So now comes the question, are you truly ready to live without your suffering and build meaning on your own terms? Because in the next chapter, we'll explore exactly that. How Nietzsche turned his own pain into creative power, and how you can too. not by denying your pain, but by using it as fuel. Nietzsche didn't write about pain as an outsider. He lived it. In his body, his mind, his soul, he endured crippling migraines, heartbreak, and the crushing weight of thoughts that isolated him. And still, instead of breaking, he wrote, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." But few truly understand how he turned pain into power. Nietzsche believed suffering isn't something to erase, it's something to walk through. He said, every wound can become a creative ferment, a raw ingredient for a new self. It's not about ignoring the past or romanticizing pain. It's about transformation. And that transformation begins when you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I do with this? Nietzsche shows us that pain can be a bridge, not an end. But crossing it takes courage. The courage to face the discomfort of change. The courage to let go of being the victim. And maybe hardest of all, the courage to endure your own growth. Because growth hurts. And that's why so many quit, but Nietzsche didn't. He saw in the figure of the Übermensch, the overman, someone who reclaims their suffering with will and intention, not someone perfect or invulnerable, but someone who creates meaning where none is given. The person who suffers and rises is not the same as the one who fell. There is something sacred in that reconstruction, a kind of dignity that only chaos can give birth to. And that's what makes pain valuable. It can be the portal to your most authentic self, but listen carefully. Transforming pain into power doesn't mean you'll never feel it again. It means learning to feel without sinking. It means using pain as a lighthouse, not an anchor. Nietzsche said, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. And maybe your pain, if faced honestly, is the chaos that will reveal a star you haven't met yet. So now the final question of this chapter, are you ready to stop fighting your pain and start dancing with it? Because that's the real power, not denying your suffering, but turning it into a silent force, unseen by others, but burning quietly inside you, rebuilding everything. In the next and final part, we'll bring this journey to a close with a reflection that reaches deep. Pain tried to break you, tried to freeze you in place, tried to convince you that nothing would ever change. But Nietzsche showed us, even in the deepest suffering, there is power. What once was a prison can become a path. What once defined you can now drive you forward. Pain doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of a new version of yourself. What you found here isn't a formula, it's a mirror. Maybe you saw your own pain reflected in Nietzsche's words. Maybe you felt, even for a moment, that you're not alone. And that by itself is already a kind of healing. But now comes the choice. Keep repeating the same cycles, or use your suffering as creative fire. Drop a comment below. What quote, idea, or moment in this video hit you the hardest? Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path. A journey through reflection, pain, and rebirth. And share this video with someone you know who might be stuck in pain, someone who needs to see things from a new perspective. You never know who's suffering in silence, just waiting to hear exactly this. Nietzsche wrote, "Become who you are." And maybe today, that's the most revolutionary step you can take, not to erase the pain, but to walk through it and come back stronger.